Hi, welcome back to the channel. For today, I have a very special book for you. I had put a poll on Instagram about which book you wanted, and out of the two, you chose the one I like as well. The book is The Courage to be Disliked. Now, this book has the potential to change your lives. Not just yours, but also the people who you want to share this book with. And I'd recommend that you do share it with all the people that you care about. That is the influence this book can have. Now, before I get started with the book, I want you to know about two schools of thought, both very different and both very important to this book. One is Aetiology and one is Teleology. Now, Aetiology is all about understanding the effect because of the cause it has, right? If I'm doing something today, Aetiology says that there must be a reason somewhere in my past for which that action today is happening. But Teleology, on the other hand, tries to understand the action itself, not the past, but the action itself, and that is what this book is all about. This book is all about teleology, or understanding why actions are happening in the present, not because of some past reason which may or may not apply. So let's get started. This book is split into 5 parts. Now, before I get started, I'd like to give you another disclaimer. This video might be a little long because honestly, there is a lot to understand in this book and I cannot cover it in a very short span of time. But I recommend that you watch the whole video because my purpose here is to not get views. It is to give some knowledge which you can actually apply in your lives, which is why I'll need to give examples, and those examples are going to take time. But let's get started. So the first part is denying trauma. The book says that trauma doesn't actually exist. What does it mean by that? What it means is that we don't actually suffer because of the experience we have had. We suffer because of what a meaning we have assigned to those experiences. For example, if I've scored badly on a maths test 5 years ago and I decided that that experience was extremely traumatic and every further test is going to be traumatic as well, I'm not actually suffering because of those bad grades. Those bad grades would have affected me for just 10 or 20 seconds or a day at max when I got the results. But I'm letting it define my further actions as well, which is not how it should happen, which actually doesn't exist. What is actually scaring me is the fact that I'm assigning meaning to that one particular event. So trauma doesn't actually exist, I'm making it exist. And moving along on the same lines, people fabricate anger. People as in all of us. Anger doesn't actually exist. What they mean by that, or what the book means by that, is, let me give you an example, right? I go to a restaurant and the waiter drops food on me, right? Now, what I actually want to do is shout at the waiter and clean my clothes, right? Now, I can get my clothes cleaned even if I talk to him properly, but I want to shout at him. So I generate or I create anger. I use it as a tool. So what the book means is we, all of us humans, use anger as a tool to justify our actions. Now, I may feel bad if I shout at the waiter, but if I say I was angry so I did it, I'm justifying it. So that's what the book means by saying we fabricate anger. Moving along on the same lines of teleology, the book says that you shouldn't let your past affect you. Because if you give all the actions today which you conduct a reason from your past, what you're basically saying is your present and your future is determined by the past. So whatever you do now doesn't even matter because it's your past controlling you right now. So you need to give away with the idea that your past is controlling you and you need to stay in the present. The next idea that the book discusses is that you have to be okay with yourself. What it means is there are a lot of deficiencies and a lot of proficiencies that we are born with. You know, some people might be born with the genetic potential to be extremely tall, to be extremely handsome, or to be extremely intelligent, and some of us may not be. But you cannot crib about that, because by cribbing about that and focusing on that, you're giving yourself trauma, you're giving yourself suffering. So you're choosing it for yourself. Instead, what you should be doing is you should be focusing on what you can do with it. A short person may not necessarily be talentless, right? That would be absurd. And a tall person may not always be the most talented person. So it doesn't matter what you've been gifted with. What matters is what you make use of. By focusing on this, you do away with the trauma of not being okay with yourself. Now, another main point which this book deals with is that unhappiness is something that you choose for yourself. Yeah, you heard that right. You choose unhappiness for yourself. Let me explain what the book means by that. Basically, there are certain parts of ourselves that we are not happy with. or there are certain circumstances in our life that we are not happy with. To change those circumstances or to change those parts about ourselves, we need to have courage, the courage to change and to put ourselves to the test. Now, most of us don't want to put ourselves to the test because we are afraid that we might fail, and which is why instead of having the courage to put ourselves to the test, we are okay being just as we are in that unhappy state. So basically, we are choosing unhappiness for ourselves. Everybody has the potential to change, but we don't take that decision because we lack courage. And finally, the first chapter concludes itself by saying that your past should have no bearing on how you live your life today. Every day you make decisions, and those decisions are what determine how your present goes. Not your future, not your past, just your present. So make sure that you are in the present. Now let's move on to part 2. And part 2 says that all our problems are because of interpersonal relationships. I know that sounds too attacking, but it's not. Stick with me. Now the first question this part raises is, why do we dislike ourselves? And the answer is that we dislike ourselves so that others cannot. Meaning that we are afraid of others disliking us, which is why we dislike ourselves even before others can, thereby protecting us for when they actually do dislike us, or maybe they don't. So we basically dislike ourselves because of inferiorities, right? Now the funny part is, inferiorities are just subjective assumptions, meaning that they have no value, they have no objective value, they have no tangible value. The only value that they have is the one which you have assigned. Now if you think height is a major factor and you think it's the be all end all, and if you're not very tall, so you're judging yourself, you're being inferior about something that you have chosen for yourself. Maybe for other people it's not a major factor. So inferiority exists only in your mind. The book also talks about the feeling of superiority and how a feeling of superiority is actually a feeling of inferiority. Now a person who boasts a lot about how good he is at certain thing is actually very inferior, because if he actually was good at that thing or be that gifted, he wouldn't need to show it, or he wouldn't need to broadcast it. Life is not a competition. You need to move in a forward direction, that's right, but you don't need to do it while comparing yourself to others. You can compare yourself to your ideal self, yes, but you cannot compare yourself to others, because that's where the agony, that's where the envy comes in. You need to move ahead forward, that's right, but you do not need to compare yourself to others. Now let's move on to the third part of the book, that is discard other people's tasks. Now tasks here is a very important term, and I want you to keep that in your mind. So let's get started with this part. Do not live to satisfy others. Do not live to fulfill the expectations of others. You owe yourself certain things. You live your own life, and so why do you let other people decide what to do and what not to? Why do you live to fulfill other people's expectations when it is your life and you're living it for yourself? So the decisions you take should also be for yourself, should they not? You need to start understanding how to separate tasks, as in what task is yours and what is not. You can do this by asking yourself a simple question: who is going to benefit from this task? If the answer is not you, you need to stay back and not interfere. Obviously, if someone asks for help, you do help them, but you do not interfere unless asked. Similarly, if someone tries to interfere on your tasks, you tell them not to, because you are going to benefit from those tasks. So you need to decide for yourself how you are to conduct those tasks. Once you start separating tasks and doing the tasks that are actually beneficial to you and not interfering on the tasks that are beneficial to other people, you will start realizing that your interpersonal problems are decreasing, because these are the reasons we have conflicts. When your parents start deciding for what career prospects you should have or which college you should go to, that's when problems come, right? Now this is very controversial, but that is your decision to take. They can offer you guidance, but it's still your decision to take. So you can avoid those problems by saying that, okay, mom, dad, this is my decision. I want your guidance, but at the end of the day, this decision is going to impact my life and I need to decide it, whatever the consequences may be. Once you realize and you get that courage to be disliked, you'll realize that you hold the cards in all your interpersonal relationships. Meaning, that you can control how your interpersonal relationships actually go, because you're not interfering on other people's tasks, you're not letting other people interfere yours. So there is no reason for there to be conflict, and which is where you have all the cards which you need to have a healthy and stable interpersonal relationship. Now let's talk about the fourth part of the book. This part revolves around community, meaning that you must make sure that you look at everyone around you as your comrades, not your enemies. You must look at them as people who you can help, not who can help you, because that's where expectations come and die. If you start expecting things of people, you're going to be disappointed. Nobody owes you anything. Even if you work extremely hard, you may or may not get the results, but that is your own circumstance and that is your own problem. If other people are not liable to give you certain things just because you work hard. In fact, what you should be focusing on is what you can give other people, is what you can give your society. Once you start looking at everyone around you as your comrades, you're living in a huge community. You're part of a huge community that is the world. And you should start thinking about how you can contribute to this community. Now, once you look at everyone as your comrades, you have no enemies, right? And you're only looking at friends, and you're only looking to benefit them. What you need to do then is form horizontal relationships and not vertical relationships. Vertical relationships are those where there is a hierarchy. One person stands above and one below. Those are not the relationships you need to have, because those relationships are what cause conflicts. What you need to have are horizontal relationships. How you can have those is by using not praise, not rebuke, but gratitude. Now you see, when you praise someone or even when you rebuke them, what you are essentially saying is that you are superior. You are coming from a place of excellence, you are coming from a place of superiority, and you are looking down on the other person. In fact, when you use gratitude and you show gratitude for the tasks people do, you are looking at them as equals, as comrades, and in comrades there are no conflicts. Another benefit of looking at the world as your community is that at any given point in time, you belong to that community. You might not feel at place at your house, at your school, at your college, or in your tuitions or wherever, but at that point you need to realize that you're still a part of a bigger community, and in that community you are respected and you are valued for just existing. Now let's move on to the final part of the book, living in the here and now. It starts with talking about self-affirmation versus self-acceptance. Self-affirmation is basically saying phrases like, I can do it, I am strong, I'm going to get through this. When in reality might be very different. Maybe I'm not strong enough, maybe I'm not going to get through this. So that is what self-acceptance is. Self-acceptance is not a negative view at things, saying that I can't do this or I'm not strong enough. It's basically accepting that at this point in time, I'm not strong enough, but I will be. How will I be? By working hard. That is self-acceptance. Self-acceptance is realizing where you actually are and working towards a state where you want to be, which is far more better than self-affirmation. Self-affirmation can be a huge loop where you're stuck. It also discusses trust and confidence, or trust versus confidence. Those are two different things actually. Now, trust is basically a transaction where you're giving trust for credit, right? Trust has certain conditions involved. I'm giving you my trust, so you better not do XYZ, or you better not break XYZ, right? But confidence, on the other hand, is unconditional. You either have confidence on someone or you don't. So you need to stop trusting everybody and you need to start having confidence. Not just people who you know, but everybody and the whole world. You need to have confidence in the whole world. That's right. Now some people may still con you, some people may still take advantage of you, but you need to look beyond that. You need to look at the fact that if you have confidence in everybody, that's when you have the potential to look at everybody as your comrades and to start benefiting people. The book says that there are 3 steps to happiness. It is self-acceptance, confidence in others, and contribution to others. Now, once you accept yourself for as you are and you start having confidence in everybody around you, that's when you can truly contribute to others. And happiness is all about contribution to others. It's about contribution to your society. And this society is the whole world, not just your community, not just your local community, not just your school. It is the whole world. So happiness in the sense is all about contribution. It is about feeling this worth that I am contributing something to this world. Every day that I wake up, my existence has a meaning. Because happiness actually is meaningless. The only meaning you can derive from it is through a sense of contribution. That contribution comes from serving others, and you cannot serve others if you do not have confidence in them, and you can't have confidence in them if you don't accept yourself first for as you are. Now the next part talks about how life is not a line, it is a series of dots. You need to look at life as a series of small events, not as a final summit. Let's take an example. You need to set a goal of climbing the mountain, of having that journey, not reaching the summit, because that's not what matters. Imagine if I put you on the summit through a helicopter for 5 minutes and then you just leave. Is that going to be meaningful? It's not. What's going to be meaningful is the climb that you have on that mountain. Even if you fail, it's going to be an experience worth remembering. Which is why life is a journey. It is not the destination. You've heard this a million times, but you need to visualize it. You need to put it in your head. It is a series of dots, not a line. And every dot, as a dot ends, it's done, it's dusted. It has no connection with the further dot. So you need to discard all the dots that have happened and not focus about all the dots that are there in the future, but just the dot that is the present. Okay, how to live in the present as compared to living in the past or the future. Now suppose there is an auditorium, right, and you shine the light brightest on the spotlight on the stage, right? Do you think anything else in the auditorium is visible? No, it's not. Just that point on the stage is visible when the spotlight is on it, when all the light in the auditorium is directed towards that spot. That is living in the present. You cannot see anything else in the auditorium. Anything else in the auditorium is your past and your future. But on the other hand, if you want to look at things in the auditorium, you're going to have to take away the light from the spotlight or the stage, and only then can you look at the rest of the audience, and the rest of the audience is not something you need to look at. Now you might say that if I'm living in the present, if I'm living in the present dot without worrying about the destination, do I just move around life meaninglessly and I live my present to the fullest and I partake in all XYZ activities? No, of course not. You need to have a guiding star that guides you in all the actions that you take, and that guiding star is nothing but contribution to others, because like we mentioned, happiness is all about contribution to others. And if you have that as your guiding star, all the decisions that you take are going to be right. You can be assured of that, because in the end, life too is meaningless. It has no meaning. The only meaning it has is the one you assign it, like so many things that you do. Therefore, the book moves on in its conclusion and says that only you can change the world. The world will change only when you change. So you must start changing yourself first. And you shouldn't worry about whether others cooperate in this change or they do not, but you must do it regardless. And you must have courage in others. You must have the courage in yourself to change. You must have the confidence in others. Whether or not they betray you is another story. That is their task. And you need to discard others' tasks. You need to focus on your own task, which is to have confidence in others and to move ahead and to contribute to society and to contribute to all the people on earth. And that was the end of The Courage to Be Disliked. I hope you like the book. I know it's quite deep and I know it'll take some time to grasp, but watch the video again if you have to, because this is a concept which can really change your life. So share it with others who you think might benefit from this school of thought, and I'll see you next time.